All thanks to the organizer to provide me the opportunity to come here and present the EUDAT in this context. And I'm Giovanni Morelli, I'm working in the Cineca. Cineca is a partner of the EUDAT, and I'm completely dedicated to the EUDAT project as project and service enabling inside the EUDAT itself. And okay, I divided the presentation in three main parts. So in the first part, I would like to show you what kind of problem we want to try. Okay, so in the first part, I would like to present what kind of problem we want or try to solve in the context of EUDAT. What about the suite of B2 services that EUDAT provides as solution? And the last part is just 3 slides about the project and service enabling. And at the end of the presentation, it must be clear why we are interested in this part. So first of all, where does EUDAT fit in the case of data quality view? Of course, you can divide in terms of data, the quality of data along 2 dimensions, the number of data sets and the size of it. And of course, in the first part, you have the large data producer and consumers, so large community. And then in the second part, you have the singular research. And of course, what want to do EUDAT is cover both in this context. This is the aim. And in this multi-layer view of data management, you start from the common data service at the bottom, and at the top of the schema, you have the users. And so in this organization also, again, EUDAT stay in this part. And so want to provide a suite of common data services in order to allow all of the users to came in the sharing and produce and manage data. Not produce, to manage, sorry. And what about the dimension again? And so you can have a single researcher, a team or community, and each one of these subjects has different requirements. And so for us, it's a very challenge to provide a solution for all these scenarios. Okay, EUDAT is a community-driven solution. So here are presented the 7 core community in the EUDAT. So the most important, the large are EPOS, and as you know, Clarin, the most important news here is that this community came for very different scientific scenario. And so from the earth science to the social science, languages, nuclear physics, biochemistry, everything. In this sense, EUDAT is completely agnostic on the quality, on the kind of data, of course. Regarding the structure, all infrastructure is organized in a network composed where the actors are the EUDAT generic data provider and the community centers. And so at the end, in a general global view, the users or community user ingest data inside this community. Then by some mechanism, data is ingested into the collaborative data infrastructure, and by some mechanism, data can be replicated around the infrastructure. So regarding, starting from this overview, you can use, the user can see EUDAT in 2 different main ways. The first is the use, EUDAT as a collaborative data infrastructure from an external point of view, and so just use it as an ingestion infrastructure. And the other is joining to EUDAT. And so the community can go inside the collaborative data infrastructure. Of course, these 2 different views of solution are completely different. And of course, in the second solution, the joining, provide more flexibility in order to access to the services. Again, if you have a lot of research community infrastructure and each one has their own community-specific servers, some can share some of them, and all other can share all the need across the community. And also this is another important requirement in order to build the solution in the EUDAT. And so what EUDAT decided to do in order to address this kind of requirement is to provide a collection of modules, a suite of services. And so this provides the possibility to use one two or all these modules in order to address your requirements. And so in this case, by this solution, we can address the requirement from the single user to the community. We try, we hope. And on the right of this picture, you can see the interaction of these services. Of course, for now, these are just names. And so I fast go through all these services in order to present what they can do. But it is also important to understand that all these services can interact. And at the end, you can see are the flow of data and metadata. And at the end, there are some services like Bit2Find that is for the discover metadata, of course, can interact with all services that manage data. And then you have a wrapper that is Bit2Handle, that is a service by which you can retrieve your data starting from some mechanism, from some handle mechanism, like PID or DOI or something like that. And there is another on top services that is a security access, is a kind of single sign-on to the services. And so very fast, B2Drop is a sync and exchange research, is a Dropbox inside the EUDAT infrastructure. No, so important. And B2Share is one of the core services. It's very important in the context of EUDAT, and by it you can store and share your research. And of course, you have the possibility to introduce metadata inside your data. And this is an example, and very important here is the metadata information. So as you can see, you have persistent identifier, and another important aspect is that a community or a member can have also another system, another handle system. And so you are not constrained to use persistent identifier in the context, for instance, of EPI consortium. That is the mechanism by which EUDAT provide you the PID for your data registration, but you can use also your own DOI, for instance, mechanism by reference data. So you are completely free in this sense. And of course, some words about the integration of the services. And so you can use B2Drop as a Dropbox space, but then you can synchronize data between B2Drop and B2Share in a very user-friendly way. Of course, all these services are provided with API, and so of course, all these operations can be performed by command line suite. B2Safe is the core of EUDAT. Why? Because of course it concerns with the replication, with the safe replication, so long-term preservation of data. And so is the mechanism based on the IRODS, by which, so it's a kind of wrapper. And so it's based on IRODS, and it is responsible for the replica of data around the collaborative data infrastructure centers, of course. So how we build this wrapper on IRODS by a policy manager. And so the users, and this kind of services is oriented to the community, not to the single user, of course. And so by the policy manager, you can decide how to move your data around the infrastructure. Okay, you are completely free to manage and define the policies that move your data. B2Stage is oriented to, of course, EUDAT, the centers in the EUDAT are also member of PRAISE, for instance. And so some users move their data also around the PRAISE centers. And so they need to move their data around the computational center. So they need to make some computation and then ingest data into the EUDAT. And it can happen that the calculation and the EUDAT center are the same center, like Cineca, ULIC, and CSC, BSC, and Barcelona Supercomputing Center, and so on. And so B2Stage is thinking to move data just from one part to another. So if some user need to perform a calculation, he can use B2Stage as a mechanism to move in an optimized way data from the EUDAT to a computational center. And Bit2Find, of course, is for the discover. And so it's completely integrated with B2Safe. And so when you ingest data by B2Safe and you attach the metadata on it, of course, automatically this data is exposed to B2Find, and so is immediately indicized. And B2Handle is a kind of a wrapper in order to retrieve your data based on mechanisms that resolve by metadata description the URL to electronic source, of course. And B2Access is not more than a single sign-on system. And so at the end, don't go into details, but you have just a web page interface by which you can register and authenticate yourselves using by different mechanisms. Also by adding your identity provider, if your company has one of these. So this is the layout at the moment of how the resources of EUDAT are distributed in the Europe. It's not more important. And the last 3 slides on the project enabling. So I said at the beginning that EUDAT try to address the solution to provide a solution for different users, community, and so on. Provide a suite of modular resources. But if you have this kind of product, you need someone that can work with you, especially in the join environment, to provide you an effort in order to customize these modules on your requirement. And so this is why in the EUDAT it's very important that people, both from the community and the EUDAT, work together in order to create the right technical solution for your requirement. And so in this case, this is why it is so important to understand the enabling process. And so the core of the enabling is, of course, the deploy phase. So we start with a pre-sale phase where the community, by an interface, interact with some work package in order to define the project. So what you need, what you want to do, and so on. At the end, when the project starts, we can realize different projects. They can be completely disconnected or connected. Each project can refer to a particular site involved in the project. And so if you need replication, with 2 centers, you have 2 projects, 1 for each center, and so on. And for each project, you will be assigned a project enabler, and this man is from EUDAT. And then you have a service enabling team, created both from people from EUDAT and from the community. More in detail, so you have the project enabler that is more near to EUDAT, the service integrator that know the requirement of the community. So this person is near to the community requirement. Of course, it is important that he has some knowledge about technology, not a big expert, but at least what the community needs. And so these 2 people can interact, and at the end, they can integrate the EUDAT module into the community requirement. So the main phase of the project, of course, are planned. Then there is the enabling. This is not important, this difference. And so in the enabling phase, community, the EUDAT allocated the resource like storage. Then we move in the pre-production. At the end, we are in the production. As you can see, in the first phase are important the roles of project enabler during the planning of the project. And at the end, it is important the roles of service integrator, where you are moving near the pre-production environment phase. Just the last 2 slides about the last call for collaboration of EUDAT. It was concluded at the beginning of the January of this year. And so we accepted 23 data pilots. These are distributed in these ways, completely equivalent distribution in this community, and this is the scientific domain. So interesting that there is no particular, is a completely uniformly distributed around the scientific domain. And the last one concerning the storage allocated in different centers in the EUDAT, in the Europe. And this graph is regarding the distribution of the services request for all kinds. So as you can see, all community are very interesting in repository and sharing and in discovery and search. Okay, this is all.